Yesterday, there was a little bit of optimism, perhaps, about the political story here around the war. But if you look at the economy, it does seem that this has taken now a turn for worse. Can you still avoid a recession?
Yes, we can. The changes that we're seeing taking place in economic performance are to be expected. All of these changes were acknowledged by risks by ministers, by the Commission, by the ECB. And what we'll be doing today is reviewing the steps that can be taken, how we can implement a recovery plan within the European Union to support those economies who need the support the most, and then how we can have the right overall budgetary policy for the euro area in 2023. So it is a risk, but yes, we can avoid it.
You can avoid it, but it does seem that when you look at it over the whole picture, the ECB, of course, is about to hike rates. There's no question on that. Yesterday, Germany, of course, almost declared a gas emergency. There's real concerns here that Russia's unilaterally going to cut the gas flows. It does seem like this is almost a perfect storm that's about to hit Europe.
Which again has been acknowledged as a risk, that as we move through the year and move into 2023, developments could take place, particularly from a security point of view, that could indeed impact our economic performance. But all that being said, we've a record level of employment within the euro area. We are now implementing a recovery fund who can help those countries who need additional support. And we will take a decision regarding a coordinated budgetary approach for next year, we can put in place other sources of economic momentum to help us offset some of the challenges that we now know are coming.
And of course, when it comes to the European Central Bank, we know they're working on this no fragmentation tool. And based on what I understand you're now telling me is, from your perspective too, there could be some type of budget fiscal response if things were to take a turn for the worse in the winter, particularly.
Well, what we will be delivering against is the commitments that we set out earlier on in the year. We said that we would review what is the right budgetary stance for the euro area next year when the economic conditions became clearer. So what we will do is deliver against that commitment. We will put in place a budgetary policy that gets the balance right between acknowledging that things have to happen to impact and reduce where we are with inflation, but at the same time to support governments in the measures that they need to put in place to deal with the cost of living challenge, and also to continue to support economic growth. So a fiscal policy that's completely different to where we were during the era of COVID, but one that is now appropriate to a lower growth, higher inflation environment.
Okay, so it does seem like it's not restrictive or neutral, maybe even, if that were to be your assessment of where the economy is going. However, I really do have to ask you ahead of the winter, how concerned are you about the cost of living, the energy situation, and now you get, I don't want to use the word panic, but you do see real concerns for the European industry that in the winter storage may not be ready, and Russia could do it. They could cut supplies. This is a huge thing for Europe.
So from a budgetary point of view, we will have a neutral stance for next year, one that is supportive but is different to where we have been in other years. In relation to the energy challenges that again we acknowledged as a risk, this is now why the Commission will be coming forward at the end of July with guidance, with plans, with proposals for coordination to deal with these challenges. Member States' governments called on the Commission to do this, and the Commission will be looking at what central coordinating roles are possible, while at the same time national governments will do all they can to deal with these shocks were they to materialise. We again have always acknowledged that such possibilities could be faced into, which is why we have spent much of this year trying to plan to deal with them should they materialise.
And that means potentially higher deficits at a time of inflation ticking up. Is that mix something that you think perhaps could work? I mean, for some out there, they say even if you run higher deficits, at this point, you almost have to do it if you want to provide that cushion for people.
Well, we need to get the balance right. Overall, we will see borrowing within the euro area reduce again next year versus where we were this year and where we were last year. But what I think will be even more as important as the level of borrowing will be what that borrowing will be used for. So it won't be the kind of broad measures, very high level of borrowing that we had during COVID. What it will be used to do is to respond back in a more targeted, more timely way to the cost of living challenges, and also recognise now that governments have to fund additional commitments due to our refugee commitments and due to our energy and defence commitments that we will deliver against. So a lower level of borrowing than we have been in recent years, and where possible for countries that maybe have a higher level of debt, if there is opportunities for the level of borrowing to reflect that, that again is something that can be looked at.
And very briefly, that assumes, however, that in markets yields are going to stay under control. I guess, do you trust the European Central Bank and that markets understand that this is a different picture, that yields should not shoot up in a way that is restrictive? Do you believe that market reaction is going to make all of this, of course, doable? Because, of course, if they go up for a country like Italy, that borrowing, even if it's targeted, is very difficult.
I absolutely support and have absolute confidence in the ability of the ECB and ministers to respond to such developments. In any conceivable circumstance, the euro area will continue to be robust, will continue to be strong, and will put in place the measures to secure us in the time ahead. When you get to moments of such change from a monetary and budgetary policy point of view, the response back to this for markets can be at times agile. They adjust maybe quickly as they incorporate and reflect on new policy decisions. But all that being said, yes, in the time ahead, I'm absolutely confident that the right measures can be put in place to secure, to protect the euro area as we respond back to the developments that are taking place.